One of the very first and most important jobs after someone dies is identifying and gathering all of their assets. And the challenge is you're often operating in the dark, trying to find things that you may not even know exist. In this video, I'm going to show you where to start when there's no clear roadmap, how to uncover assets that aren't obvious or well documented, and what you can do to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. And stick around to the end because I have a funny, true story for you. I'm attorney Darlynn Morgan, and for over 25 years, I've helped trustees and families track down assets, connect missing pieces, and untangle situations where things were overlooked. But before we get into where to look, you first need to understand what this process really is. This is not a checklist. It's much closer to a puzzle where you don't even know how many pieces there are or what the final picture is supposed to look like. You might find a bank statement, which leads to an account, which leads to another institution, which leads to something else entirely. And then there are gaps, missing pieces you can't see yet, but you know they're out there. And your job is to keep pulling on those threads until the full picture starts to come together. Most people start where the clues are, physical records and mail. You go into the house, you open drawers, and you start working through the files, the folders, and the cabinets. Sometimes it's neatly organized. Other times, not so much. Either way, this is where your first real clues are going to show up. You're looking for anything that ties your parent to an institution. Bank statements, investment statements, insurance policies, bills, notices. Anything with a company name on it matters. You're not looking for answers yet. You're really looking for clues. One document may not give you the full picture. It may point you to the next place to look. A bank statement leads to an account. That account may show activity with another institution. A bill may reveal a relationship that you didn't know existed. So as you go, start building a running list. Every account, every institution, every lead. Because the information starts coming in, it can come quickly, and it may become difficult to keep track of it all, what you found and what still needs follow-up. We have an asset inventory and tracking sheet that we use with our clients, which is linked in the description. And one practical step that helps more than people expect: forward the mail. Statements, notices, and tax forms, those will continue to come in, and sometimes that's how a completely unknown account will surface. This is the first step, and it will build in layers of information as you go. Next, you'll want to follow the financial trail of tax returns and professionals. These are a treasure trove of information. They quietly list out relationships the person had, like banks, investment accounts, real estate, even small sources of income that you might never think to look for. You'll see things like 1099s for interest and dividends, which will point directly to financial accounts. You may see mortgage interest deductions or business income. It's all there, just not organized in a way that makes it obvious. And if you don't have the tax returns, it's worth getting them because they often connect the dots that nothing else will. From there, you want to reach out to the people who were already working with your loved one, the CPA, the financial advisor, the attorney. In many cases, they already have some version of an asset list. Now, they're not going to just hand that over to you. You're going to need legal authority before they'll speak to you. But once you have that, these are some of the most productive conversations that you can have. Then, your next step is to expand the search to employers, benefits, and insurance. Some of the largest assets aren't sitting in bank accounts. They're tied to employment, and these can be missed because they're less visible, and maybe some time has passed. So think of 401ks or pensions or employer life insurance policies. If your parent worked for multiple employers over the years, you may need to contact each one. Start with old pay stubs, benefit statements, or employment records. Then contact current and former employers to ask what benefits may still exist. And that makes this tricky. These accounts often don't generate regular mail. so they may not show up in household paperwork, and family members frequently have no idea that they exist. Next, you'll need to go digital and check email and online accounts. This is where asset searches have changed the most because now some assets don't exist on paper at all. They live entirely online. Email is one of your best entry points here. If you have access, start searching for names of banks, investment companies, or even just words like statement, account, or confirmation. Financial institutions send emails for everything: account openings, monthly statements, alerts, and sometimes that's the only place that an account will show up. You also want to think beyond traditional accounts, online banks, investment apps, PayPal, Venmo, even cryptocurrency or digital wallets. There may not be any paper trail. They don't always show up in a file cabinet, so there may be no obvious way to find them. So this step can be frustrating. Passwords, access issues, two-factor authentication, companies that won't talk to you without the right documentation. It can feel like you're hitting a wall, but this is part of the process now, because in many cases, some of the most overlooked assets are the ones that only exist digitally. And if you don't go looking for them, there's a real chance they may never get found. You'll want to check the systems that are designed to catch what was missed. So what happens if an asset isn't found? Well, it usually ends up with the state. In California, that's the State Unclaimed Property Division. When accounts go dormant or institutions lose contact with the owner, the funds are eventually turned over to the state to hold. And there's a lot sitting there, often money that was simply missed after a person dies or during a period that they're incapacitated near the end of their life. That's why searching unclaimed property databases is so important. You can search using your parents' name, prior addresses, and variations of their name. And you'd be surprised how often something appears. It may be small or it may be significant, but either way, it's an asset that could have been lost if nobody went looking for it. So a real example of what happens when something gets missed. Let me tell you a true story. I had a successor trustee client who was selling mom's house. She thought she was completely done clearing out all the personal items from the home. She had sorted everything, divvied things up with her siblings, donated items, thrown things away, and she was ready to turn over the house to the realtor. But the trustee remembered something I had said. Check carefully. Sometimes things are hidden in surprising places. So she did one last sweep, and she found an old suitcase hidden in the back of a storage area. What was inside? Valuable jewelry wrapped in pantyhose, along with some gold and a wad of cash. And that's exactly why this process is often like solving a puzzle. People hide things, they forget things, they use unusual storage places. And sometimes valuable assets are hidden where nobody thinks to look. So if you take nothing else from this, take this. You're probably not going to have a complete list on day one. This is like a puzzle, and your job is to find one piece, follow it, and then keep going until, over time, the picture starts to fill in. Because the goal is to confidently know that you've done all that you can to find every asset. And as you go through the process, a lot of people naturally start asking, do I actually need a lawyer to do this? Technically, no, but that decision comes with trade-offs. So if you want to understand when it makes sense to handle this yourself and when bringing in a lawyer can save you time, stress, and lastly, mistakes, watch the next video.